A warm welcome to today's video. I will be explaining the limits of knowledge unit as part of philosophy A-level. Now let's begin by defining terms. So philosophical skepticism basically means doubt. Okay, so doubt applied to a knowledge claim. And the reason for this is the skeptic believes that the justification for a specific knowledge claim is insufficient. And so they're going to doubt the knowledge claim. They don't think it's knowledge. We have two types of skepticism. We have local skepticism and we have global skepticism. Now, without me explaining these terms, I'm sure you sort of understand what they mean. Local skepticism is doubt applied to a specific claim or a specific branch of knowledge claim. And then global skepticism, as the term suggests, is about all our knowledge claims, a whole sort of structure, a whole epistemic structure. And this includes thought experiments and hypotheses like the brain in a vat thought experiment or the evil demon hypothesis posed by Descartes. Now, I answered a 25-mark question on this in the actual 2023 A-level exams. Our 25-mark question for epistemology was, are the claims of philosophical skepticism true? I answered the question. I got 22 marks out of 25. I did pretty well on that question. And so lots of these arguments that I will discuss, I have good understanding of because I've talked about them in the actual exam. And I've answered a question to a high level. Not a perfect question, but in the pressure of an actual exam that actually counted towards my actual A-levels, which got me actually into university, I answered a question on this. So my understanding of these is pretty good. The beginning of this unit is Descartes' waves of doubt. That's how we get the skepticism that the exam board wants us to know. Skepticism is a movement that extends far beyond the specification. It precedes the specification. So the ancient Greeks, of course, they were talking about skepticism, but we just need to know the beginning from Descartes. Descartes uses three waves of doubt. And the basic idea with this, a really nice way of explaining it from Alex O'Connor, was the three waves of doubt treat every dubitable claim as false. So every claim I might be able to doubt, if I could even just suppose that I can doubt it, then I treat it as false. And so we have three waves. The first wave is the argument from perceptual variation, and this focuses on perceptions that are far away or that are small. And that shows that our perception can make errors, small errors, maybe even insignificant errors, but errors nonetheless. And that's the first way. The second wave is the argument from the dream-waking distinction. Now that extends this criticism of perception, not just to perceptions that are far away, that appear small to me, but actually to all perception. So in a dream, I don't have any way of determining whether my perceptions are false. So I could suppose that I'm in a dream, and my perceptions that seem accurate are actually not a representation of the world. And so what this means is all our perceptions are dubitable. The third wave is the evil demon hypothesis. And even if I doubt all my perception or my empirical knowledge, there are still things that I know. I know that objects in the world have extension. I know that the basic truth of geometry is still true. I know that colour, even if I perceive it wrong, there is a thing in the world which is colour. I know there's a thing in the world which is shape, which is extension. And so I can't doubt everything. That's what the evil demon hypothesis tries to do. So it makes even our basic deductions false. All empirical claims, all a priori claims are fallible. And so now what we have is this complete global skepticism. All our knowledge claims are false, or are doubtable at the very least. Now, we have a few ways out of this. We can go the empirical route, the route of the empiricist, or we can go Descartes' route. We'll go over to Descartes first. Now, Descartes has the cogito. If you have watched my video on the intuition and deduction thesis, you will understand this. If you've studied philosophy A level, you'll probably understand this. It's not a groundbreaking, well, it is a groundbreaking idea, but it's not extremely hard to understand. Because I doubt, because I can think of the three waves of doubt, that means I'm thinking. And because I'm thinking contains I, that shows that I think, therefore I exist, I am. And that's cogito. That's how we can get out of doubt. So at least we know something. At least we know that when I'm thinking, cogito ergo sum, I think, therefore I am. When I think that, I exist. Now, Descartes then tries to go on to prove everything else, basically. He tries to prove the existence of God, and he tries to prove the existence of the external world. I won't cover those in this video, because in my previous video I explained all of his arguments for philosophy A level. But we don't need this. So when I answered a question in the exam that got me 22 out of 25 marks, I just addressed this. So I didn't need to address the intuition and deduction thesis. You can just shoot down cogito, and that defeats Descartes. Because if you can't prove that he exists because of cogito, then none of the other arguments follow from it. I really like this criticism from Bertrand Russell. He argues that cogito contains two separate premises. The first premise, there is a thought going on. And the second premise, these thoughts are attached to something called me. And the first premise can be proved, but the second premise is not logically necessary. And that's a criticism which I really like. Now, Descartes' response to his own waves of doubt aren't very good. What you can also do, and we're going to go on to do this, is you attack the waves of doubt themselves. And that's also a good way of going about it. Now, we have a number of criticisms or counters, ways of getting around global skepticism. Hume's one is the first one we'll look at. Now, in the inquiry, which I have on my desk, Hume highlights, and I don't know how you say this, I think it's Pyrrho or Phero, the best known skeptic of antiquity, who had to be accompanied at all times because he saw no reason to fear wild animals or carts that were flying towards him. And the legend goes that he died, he was blindfolded, and he walked off a cliff because of his skepticism. He had no reason to fear the external world, and then he fell to his death. Now, whether that's true or not, it's quite a nice way of explaining Hume's point. And Hume's point is that outside of the classroom, skepticism is just completely useless. It's completely inactionable, and it's meaningless. It's a meaningless theory, because we go out of the classroom, and of course we can't be a global skeptic. Of course we can't, because we've just got to live our life, and we're in the external world, and we've got to pick things up and drive our car and believe that fire exists, and we can't doubt these things. And so it's actually not a position to be taken seriously, and skepticism, global skepticism, is not a meaningful position. Now, the way we can counter this, if you like to defend philosophical skepticism, is you say that Hume doesn't actually fix the problem. Because what you can do is you can distinguish between claims which are true and claims which are useful. And they don't rely on each other. So Hume is right that the claims of philosophical skepticism are useless, but they might still be true. And so his point is actually distinct from the point, which is, if it was my exam question, for example, is the claims of philosophical skepticism true? Or rather, are the claims of philosophical skepticism true? And Hume doesn't really address the truth value of them. He just says that skepticism is useless. Now, we have Berkeley as well. He uses idealism. I've got a video on idealism. And what Berkeley does is he removes the mind-independent world altogether. So he says, yeah, all we can know are our perceptions, our mind, and those are mind-dependent. And so, cool, yeah, no mind-independent world, fine, he accepts it and he moves on. We can be certain of our perceptions, but we can't be certain of the mind-independent external world. Now, this falls victim to a number of issues. You can just go back over the issues of idealism. A fitting one for this issue is the issue of illusions and hallucinations. Because all perceptions are mind-dependent, illusions and hallucinations must be as real as any other type of perception. And that's a problem. Now we move on to two really nice responses. G.E. Moore, this was my killing blow. This was my strongest paragraph that helped me write such a convincing essay. Please leave a comment as well if you want me to walk through that essay question or my essays in general. I'm happy to do that. Now, G.E. Moore, he argues that global doubt, global skepticism is contradictory. It is impossible for all claims to be doubted. Some beliefs must be taken for granted. To reach the evil demon hypothesis, you need to use logic. You need to use your reasoning. And so, you can't doubt your reasoning because you've used it to get to the position where you doubt logic. So you can't doubt it. In the same way that the claim, I know nothing, is self-defeating. Because if you claim that you know nothing, you know at least one thing and you know that you know nothing. So, in this way, we can show that the position of global skepticism is contradictory. You can't doubt everything. Some things must be taken for granted. Because to get to a position where you can doubt everything, you need to use your reasoning. And if you don't have your reasoning, if you don't take your faculty of reasoning for granted, then you can't get to that position in the first place. The final position is from John Locke. Now, John Locke's position is less strong than Moore's in my estimation. The first thing Locke does is he distinguishes between his primary and secondary qualities. I've got a video on independent realism if you want to go back over that. But the basic idea is primary qualities are less susceptible to skepticism because they're more objective. They're things like shape and extension, and these things are much harder to doubt. The next point Locke makes is he sort of accepts that he can't be certain 100%. Like, he's an empiricist, and he accepts that, yeah, there is this limit to empiricism, and we can't be 100% certain. Instead, we can be probable, we can be 95% sure, 99% sure, and that's good enough. We actually don't need 100%. He believed that while absolute certainty might be unattainable, it is still possible to achieve degrees of probability that are sufficient for practical purposes. So this works really well with Hume. Basically, we can't be certain, we can't entirely disprove philosophical skepticism. The empiricist method can't be 100% certain, but it doesn't need to be. They're your arguments. Thank you for watching.